So today is March 17th. It is not only the day that you wear green, but it is also National Corned Beef and Cabbage Day, following our tradition of calling out interesting food holidays. So I think National Corned Beef and Cabbage Day, it said something like it's dedicated to the promotion of affordable cured meat meals or something, which is a great cause, I guess. And growing up, I actually always thought corned beef involved corn in some way. Do you know where the name comes from?
Well, corning, does it? Yeah, corning is the term for preserving or whatever, the salting things.
Because the salt crystals are the size of corn kernels, basically. So it had got me thinking, corned beef, roast beef, pot roast. For all of you in chat, maybe this is a way to get everything jump started. Which three of these things do you think is most popular with American consumers, that you have the most number of people saying they love or like it? Is it corned beef, which is today the holiday for corned beef? Is it roast beef, or is it pot roast? Which one of these three things do you think American consumers say they most love or like? So let's not bias things yet. Actually, what are people voting so far?
Yeah, lots of roast beef and pot roast.
Yeah, very split between those two.
No love for corned beef, even on corned beef, National Corned Beef Day? What's up with that? So we can actually look at what the real data shows us by looking in our flavor tool, which evaluates, hey, every single thing you can eat or drink. Do people love it? Do they like it? Do they know what it is? Have they had it before? And for corned beef, this is sort of interesting. 49%, we're going to look at this number right up here, love or like corned beef. And if you want a little more detail, you can see 21% love it, 28% like it. That gives you 49% total of Americans that love or like it. So that's the first thing I would call it. 49% love or like corned beef. And you'll find it on almost 12% of restaurant menus. So that's the corned beef number. How about pot roast? 65% love or like pot roast. So that moves into the #1 slot. More people love or like pot roast than even corned beef, which is sad on a day like today, but it is the truth. But it's only around 3% of restaurant menus compared to the 12% for corned beef. So should we be doing more pot roast stuff on menus, put it into a sandwich or a grilled cheese or something? It seems like there's a gap over there for us to fill. And then finally, I guess everyone is smart about this. Roast beef is #1 at 73% and on 18% of menus. So let's give corned beef its day in the sun, which we're doing today. But I would ask you all this. Do you think we blurred out a little bit of this picture over here? We actually blurred out this chart that shows you the historic trend line for corned beef on restaurant menus in the US. It's at about 12% today. But do you think that line has been gaining, declining, or has been flat over the last several years? Has corned beef been growing or shrinking or not changed in menu popularity over the last several years? What do you all think? Just put it in chat and let's see how good we are.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Is it
Not
all
a
over
flat.
Mike, what do you think? And Renee, what do you think? You haven't seen it yet.
No, you sent it. I saw it already.
Oh, you did?
Got it.
Yeah.
Renee, you haven't looked at it. What do you think?
Oh gosh, I am not sure. Either growing or flat, possibly.
All right, so we have 3 possible guesses, and you guessed 2 of them, which leaves only one thing you didn't guess, which is exactly what it's been doing. It's actually been shrinking on menus for quite some time. And that's actually interesting. I mean, I think you see maybe a little bit of a COVID effect where lunch used to be the most popular time of day. And then a lot of those sort of sandwich applications you'd see corned beef in may have dropped as some of those lunch menus contracted during that time, but it's been on a long-term decline. So if we could find more inventive things to do with corned beef to get it back up there, let's do it. Today is the day of corned beef. So hopefully we inspired you to think of corned beef innovation. Okay. Everyone, please use your chat. When you hit chat, make sure you choose all panelists and attendees or everyone, so you're chatting to everybody and not just Mike, Renee, and myself directly, but let's share our thoughts with everyone else throughout the industry. I did want to call out, there's some brand new content in Report Pro you should be checking out. I think most of you now are subscribing and using Report Pro on a pretty frequent basis. Here's some of the latest reports you might want to check out inside the tool. One, this is a big one, the Pulse Industry Overview. This looks at all of food service, all the different segments in food service, what operators are doing, what they're thinking, and it breaks things out segment by segment to understand really what's driving the industry forward, what the challenges are, and what operators need to be successful going forward. And then the great thing is you could do this not just as a whole, but segment by segment as well. There's also a big deep dive we just published a few days ago on K through 12, which goes into much, much greater detail beyond just the core dynamics, but all the things that are happening that are specific to K to 12 and what is this mean coming out of COVID and going forward. There's a wonderful new report on seasonality trends that just got published as well. What does seasonality mean? Claire was with us a few weeks ago, giving us a little bit of a top line, but there's much, much more detail in here if seasonality matters to you, and it should. And then finally, we just published what we think will probably be the last of the COVID report series, 64 reports we've done on COVID that we've made available to the industry for free for the last couple of years, but it seems like COVID is largely behind us. So this is it, at least for the time being, unless there's some other crazy surge, which we certainly hope isn't the case, is going to be the current end of our COVID reporting. So check that out, and we wrap it all up for you nicely with the bow in this last episode, which was just published a few days ago. Okay, so as a reminder, if you're not using Report Pro yet, jump in, it's great. And with that, we're gonna move on to some new interesting things that we found. So I'm gonna show you some data from our scores system, which tracks all new items and limited time offers and new things that chain restaurants are doing on their menu. And here's a look at the frequency of new menu introductions at America's top chain restaurants. If you look at all the big chains in the US, this shows you month by month how many new items debut on those menus. And you can sort of see in the years or the 5 years leading or the 3 years leading up to COVID, big chains were averaging about 403 new items on the menu collectively every single month. Then when we hit COVID, obviously that thing just fell through, dropped through the floor, and we went from 403 down to 211 became our average number of new items at chain restaurants on a monthly basis for the first 6 months of COVID. We then started a recovery period where the next 6 months of COVID, we went from 211 back up to 315. So that was a pretty nice recovery pretty quickly after we sort of fell off that initial cliff. And then for the past year or so, the number's been sitting at about 344. So there's still quite a good deal of innovation on chain restaurant menus, but we're not quite yet at the same level of new menu ideas and output that we were in the pre-COVID period. If you do the simple math, the 344 that we're at today versus the 403 where we were in the pre-COVID period, we're currently at about 85% of pre-COVID menu activities today, at least among chain restaurants. So that's where we are today. We think this number will continue to move upward over time, but it will be somewhat constrained by things like supply chain, labor, and other factors that we'll talk about. So the one thing that I think is quite encouraging to date is if we look at where the focus has been on new menu items that chains have launched, we can look at the past 3 months. So if you look at the last 3 months of new things that chains have debuted on their menu, and then we could look at what happened in those years leading up to COVID, which is sort of like the average, for a month to month for chains over some period of time. Then we can look at the difference between the two. I wanted to call out this line over here for combo meals and value items, basically all the price-based promotions that you might find on the menu. The good news is that, as of today, we have not gone back to the simple strategy, the easy button strategy of over-relying on value promotions. Historically, combo meals and value items are about 5% of new menu activity. Over the last 3 months, they've only been about 3.5%. So I think that's super, super encouraging because it would be really easy to just say, hey, if we want to stimulate demand or whatever, let's just put stuff on sale or on a promo. We haven't done that. We've actually stayed fairly engaged with innovation as an industry. So I think that's really quite positive. And you can sort of see how that plays out over here, right? This is the percentage over time of new menu activity at chain restaurants that are combo meals and value items. It hit 37% following the financial crisis in 2009. That is crazy, right? The historic number is more like 5%, but at some point during 2009, that number skyrocketed to 37%. More than 1 out of every new things that debuted on the menu was some sort of a price promotion. We have not gone back to that since COVID, which is really, really good news because we still need innovation to move the industry forward. We cannot simply go back to an environment of discounting. So I would ask you all this. Here's a totally different chart, completely unrelated to the one that we just saw. Who here in chat can guess what this is a chart of? It could be anything. It could be, the average life expectancy of a Cocker Spaniel. It could be how often you find, non-tomato based pizzas. What is this a chart of?
I mean, answers are all over the place. Inflation, gas prices, housing prices.
Well, it sounds like they're all right there because the 3 things you talked about were basically all related. And this is actually US inflation. So round of applause for all of you that guessed it. And it sounds like many of you did. You can sort of see where we are at 7.9% was the latest number that came out, I think just last Thursday, a week ago. And I'd like to maybe put this in perspective of where things are globally. So we don't have data on every single country, but of the countries that are published, I think we got this from Trading Economics. This is what global inflation rates looks like for the month of February 2022. And you can see there's a couple of countries over here that haven't published yet, and those are noted with an asterisk. So South Africa, UK, we only have Jan 2022 numbers, and Australia, we only have December 2021 numbers. That's the most current. But the US is at 7.9, and save, for Turkey and Argentina, which are just crazy numbers, and then Brazil and Russia, the US is actually sort of at the high end of the spectrum. So, we've asked before consumers, hey, do you think, inflation is going to get better or is it going to get worse in the period ahead? And I believe the last thing that consumers told us is that like 80% thought that their expectation was that inflation was actually going to get worse. What do you all think? Maybe just in chat, do you think that 7.9 number that we're at now is going to show a market decrease, by the year's end, or do you think it's going to sort of stay at a high level for a while? And if we think there is a reasonable probability that it's not going to come right back down to 3% or 3.5% or 2.5%, it's quite likely that the industry is going to start making a little bit more of a shift towards value-based items. The very thing we just said we haven't seen a glut of activity in, these value-based promos on menus. It sure seems like there's going to be some incentive to start doing a little bit more of that if inflation feels like it's more here to stay. And it certainly seems like a lot more of the dialogue is that inflation is not as temporary as maybe once thought. But I don't know, I can't actually see chat as it scrolls by. Are there any opinions being circulated in chat one way or the other?
I'd say 99% say worse.
Say it's here. Okay, so and remember, we have decision makers in the food and restaurant industry on this webinar, right? So these are the folks that are going to decide what to do on the menu and what the marketing strategy should be. So if it's 99% saying, hey, we think it's going to be here, I think the incentive is going to be there to say we better start doing some value-based stuff to attract that inflation concerned consumers. So I think we're almost certainly going to see more value-based combos and value meals and special price promotion items in the months ahead. But I would like to remind us that even though that is okay and it's okay to do more of it, we should not pretend that deal promotions are a substitute for innovation, nor are they necessarily healthy for us in the long run. So this is our message to implore everyone that's listening to this. Keep your innovation pipelines going, keep them full. If you think that some sort of a value promo is the way to go in the short run or gets you to a certain customer, fantastic. but it will kill you in the intermediate term if you let the innovation pipeline dry up. So let's keep innovating. And one thing that I think has been really quite encouraging is when we look at our scores data, again, we could see everything that's released by restaurants and as well as what consumers think of those items. So you could see for each of these new items that chains release, there's some metrics, right? Do people want to buy it? Would they have it all the time? And there's a measure here called uniqueness, which is how new and different does this item feel to you, right? Compared to everything else you might find at a restaurant. And here's a look at the average level of uniqueness across time in our scores data, right? So across, I think at this point, over 40,000 items that we've tested in scores, that we sort of average things out month by month by month. This is the average level of perceived uniqueness among consumers for all the new things that chain restaurants are adding to their menu. And the good news is since COVID, that uniqueness number has stayed strong. It hasn't dipped. In fact, it's actually increased. So we're still doing a really good job of bringing interesting stuff to the menu. Let's keep that going, even if there is a need to maybe do some more price promos to get to that inflation sensitive consumer. Let's keep the innovation up and let's keep the uniqueness up. We've been doing a great job with it. Let's keep on going. Okay. So today is St. Patrick's Day, and there are many different pictures we could have chosen for our Happy St. Patty's Day intro. I wonder why we picked this one. Renee, you want to kick us off?
My son Luke could not be here today, so sometimes he's a nice little hit.
Oh, that's your son. I never would have guessed. Okay, so there's a reason for it.
Wait, are you being serious?
No, that was a sarcasm on my part.
Okay.
I'm like, why do we have this blurry picture in this
like,
otherwise very
okay.
high resolution?
Well, he's here in spirit.
Yeah,
on the webinar.
So Renee, you and Mike are going to take us through trends that we're seeing from all around the world of food. And why don't we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, so these are just a few quick things from St. Patrick's Day today. This is the Shamrock Smear, nice little alliteration bagels that is available only today.
Is that sweet? Is it like a dessert flavor?
I think it's just green plain cream cheese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I know I thought there would be some, like it does look like frosting there, so
So is this sort of meant to be like a social media sensation type of thing?
I think
feel
so.
like this is
And
fair, though, right?
since they probably don't have green beer to serve, putting it into their schmear there. But this is the Tipsy Leprechaun from Applebee's. So this is alcoholic. They've got melon liqueur, sour mix. They've got that gold sugar rim. And then today they also have a pot of gold pina colada. So just some festive drinks for today.
That is a cool looking drink. That looks like it will definitely change your mental state if you.
And I thought this was kind of cool. This is the Banks Fish House in Boston. And they say they don't usually serve Guinness, but of course for today only they are. And then they're also serving up to go along with it a corned beef and fried oyster Reuben. So kind of a nice way to put in, they're obviously seafood focused. So mixing those two up together to serve with their Guinness.
That's actually pretty good because we start off by saying, hey, we need to find more innovative applications for corned beef. I didn't realize fried oysters would be the perfect pairing, but there is more you can do with it.
And then speaking of Guinness, we've got the Guinness Brewery in Maryland came out with, or they brought back this breakfast tea amber variety. So they say it's a everyday, anytime beer. So that's actually steeped with Irish breakfast tea during the brewing process. So
this is a limited time only type of item?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, actually sounds quite delicious.
Yeah, it sounds really good to me. So
were people getting all excited and, like anticipating St. Patrick's Day? Was that like was there a lot of anticipation building up like a month or 2 months ago, or
Yeah, I don't know. Renee and I were talking about this when we were looking for things to showcase because the webinar was on St. Patrick's Day today. It feels like as an industry, we almost should have done a little bit more innovation because consumers could not wait to get back out there and see like all the cool stuff. And yet we didn't see quite as many kind of cool LTOs that were pegged to the holiday as we normally do.
So it is interesting, right? Because I don't know if everyone sort of forecasted that, hey, when we get to the middle of March, COVID will, to many people, feel like it's behind us and we're going to be able to go and get back out there again. Like that might still be a somewhat fresh sentiment.
Oh, definitely.
For some.
Absolutely, yeah.
So probably hard to like plan super far ahead to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, and actually, if you look in Report Pro, Claire on the content team, she just uploaded a brand new seasonality report just about St. Patrick's Day promotions, flavors that you associate with it. And it's funny, you see, you know, the corned beef line of when corned beef releases happen on menus, and it's like one thing in January, two things in February, March, you know, 97, and then it goes back down again. So. I mean, this goes to show how much pent-up demand there was. So St. Patrick's Day is a huge holiday in Chicago. And this year, I think there was kind of that feeling that it would be bigger than ever, but like the bars were absolutely insane. The Dying of the River downtown was packed. There was one bar owner in the city who said he actually ordered a second truckload of Jameson because he anticipated so much pent-up demand from consumers in the city. So I feel like if St. Patrick's Day was kind of like a bellwether for whether people are getting back to normal and have this pent-up demand, at least in Chicago, it's definitely true.
So I'm guessing this image they use in this news report is not from this year, right? This is like a...
No, this is this year.
So not a mask in sight.
No masks. Yeah.
Not even a green mask. Right?
I know. I actually had to look it up because I thought it was an old one.
Yeah, where is this? Do you know, Mike? Was
I'm
this?
not sure
Oh,
which
this
bar
was
this
Chicago.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, someone says it. Oh, they said is it Smothers? Yeah, I don't know.
That's amazing that this is this year, and it's in Chicago too. That is incredible. I mean, do you remember early, like, you know, maybe 8 months into the pandemic or something? I think on this webinar we looked at some images from Wuhan where it looked like, you know, things were back to normal and they're all like, people are like partying in like the water park and it was super crowded. We're like, you can't even imagine that happening anytime soon in the US. Like, this is pretty next level over here, and everyone's drinking like crazy on top of it.
Yeah.
So.
When it really helped the Wrigleyville bars too, because with the baseball season, the first you know, few series being canceled, all the Wrigleyville bars were really worried about it. So this kind of at least up their bottom line a little bit.
So is there any sentiment of backlash against all these people, you know, being in close quarters and you know?
I mean, when they post things online, like you'll see people in the comments still being like, you know, not a mask in sight and things like, so there's still kind of, you know, that push and pull.
Huh, that's fascinating. Why are people wearing sunglasses indoors?
It's cool. They gotta look cool.
Sun never sets.
Okay. Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, kind of in some other news from the week, it just felt like we'd be remiss if we didn't kind of call out, you know, what the restaurant and food industry has been doing to really support the people of Ukraine. I feel like, you know, yellow and blue has been, you know, the color combo to have on menus. I went out 2 times over the weekend, and both places that I went to had cocktails on the menu where a portion of the proceeds both of them actually went to World Central Kitchen, which has been doing an absolutely phenomenal job. So I think we, you know, really just wanted to call out what a great job everybody's been doing. I think World Central Kitchen has, you know, really kind of stood up as a real leader in our industry for things like this, and anything that we can do to support.
Yeah, and let me just echo that. So World Central Kitchen is actually the organization that Datassential has chosen to you know, put most of its support behind as it relates to the crisis in Ukraine. If y'all haven't had a chance, check it out. They're helping feed people both inside Ukraine as well as that have fled to Poland and to other areas too. It's a really worthy cause. So that's World Central Kitchen, definitely worth taking a look. You know, I was actually in a restaurant the other day and they had a cookie that looked really good. I'm like, how much is this cookie? And they're like, it's $5. I'm like, whoa, that's really expensive for a cookie. When they say actually all the proceeds go to Ukraine, so it made it very easy to buy lots of those cookies all of a sudden. Now, there is another side of this, which is effectively the, I don't know, I guess you almost have to call it like the cancellation of anything Russian. And there's a story of, I think, a Ukrainian restaurant owner in New York that called her restaurant a Russian restaurant because she thought more people would understand what that is, but had been, boycotted and, nasty things said to her, even though she's Ukrainian herself. And I think now she's rebranding her restaurant as a Ukrainian restaurant and just sort of repositioning it. So
yeah, we've seen that a couple of times. That's Russian Samovar in New York, and Russian Tea Room in Chicago has experienced kind of a similar backlash. But I think luckily there's almost a backlash to the backlash now, where you're seeing people go back to those restaurants because, Russian Samovar in New York, she said the majority of the staff there is Ukrainian. So, I think people are kind of, understanding the nuance a little bit.
Yeah, I hope that tide turns, right? Because those folks had nothing to do with this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I read something that had a really good quote that was like, stop being mean to, the Russian people around you or the business owners. Like the 60-year-old woman selling you pierogi has nothing to do with, any of the stuff that you're being angry about. So that's a sentiment to keep in mind.
That sentiment grows. But yeah. Okay. What is this?
And then this is the last one in the news section, but so this is, I feel like if you're anywhere near New York in the next few months, this is a must visit. So it's the Museum of Food and Drink, and they got together with the Africa Center, and they put together this exhibit called African American Making the Nation's Table. And it's basically about, really recognizing African American food producers' legacy on American cuisine. And the centerpiece of it is this legacy quilt project where there are, culinary figures from history who are African-American and who did, really support, the various, things that we eat today, the food products that we purchase today. They actually have it online, and you can just go through the quilt and learn about people, and you'll easily spend an hour and an hour and a half. There was James Hemming. He was the first the first actually American French trained chef in the US. He was African American, and he introduced the country to European mac and cheese and French fries. There was Nearest Green. He was actually the first African American distiller in the US, and he is the person that taught Jack Daniels how to distill. So it's an absolutely fascinating, incredibly well done exhibit. But if you can get to the exhibit itself, they also have the Ebony Magazine Test Kitchen, which was here in Chicago at the headquarters. And then when they sadly tore that building down, they saved it, and that's actually on display there. So just seems like an absolutely fantastic exhibit.
That is really, really cool. So this is in Chicago, or this is
No, this is in New York.
New York. And is it a traveling exhibit, or you can only see
I don't know. It didn't seem like it. Maybe there are plans to have it travel, but it seemed like it was pretty much designed for this space.
Okay, yeah. I mean, but you could find it online too, right? So
yes,
everyone should check it out. That's so cool. Well, this is us. What is this?
Yeah, so there's always so much going on social media, TikTok. I did an entire issue last month on social media sensation. So we saw burrito tacos really take off, corn ribs, dessert boards. So I covered a few of those trends, and also, custard toast is the big thing that I just made like 5 slices because I've been making it every single day. So delicious. Look that up if you are not familiar with it. But then on the next page, some of the things that have come out
recently. Here for a second, Renee. I would almost ask. So, I think our view is we have all these social media trends and TikTok foods and whatnot, and that probably a lot of those individual TikTok foods themselves will not be long-term trends. But the notion of TikTok foods is certainly a long-term trend. That said, are there any TikTok things that we've seen where you're like, you know what? This thing probably really does have legs and we'll still be talking about it a year from now.
Oh yeah, I mean, corn ribs, I think all of the things that I covered in that issue, corn ribs are on a couple of different menus now. With Dalgona coffee from, was that 2 years ago now, right at the beginning of the pandemic, we've seen on menus and at retail, and the burrito tacos for sure as well.
How did the burrito
So-
tacos become a social media thing? Because they've been around, obviously, for it wasn't like a new invention. Whereas
Right.
the
So,
corn
well,
dogs-
Berea itself has been around a long time, but it was interesting to kind of dig into that. And Berea tacos is the kind of more non-traditional version that really got showcased on TikTok and on social media. The whole dipping, cheesy goodness. That's the modern version that really exploded
that's
from there.
because
So
I know for Datassential, at least for our Chicago office, a few years back, we did a local walking tour of the Pilsen area, and burrito tacos was, I think, part of that exact tour. But okay,
yeah,
so you-
yeah, that's the more traditional. We had the Berea goat tacos, or yeah, I remember that. There was some goat brain that I think I was maybe the only one that tried. Exactly.
Delicious.
Yeah, it's a nice little evolution of
It kind of
something
feels
that's
too
old.
like, I don't know if you saw this, Renee, but it feels like anything that's more like video oriented, like it seems like we've kind of moved from photography to like TikTok and Instagram Reels. So anything that's very visual, like cheese
Mhm.
pulls, they're dipping, like
Yes.
is kind of what's driving a lot of the social media trends now.
That is totally true. Like if it changes colors from different directions,
Yeah.
or it's very fizzy, or it shoots up in the air, that's the key right now.
Shoots up in the air. That's great.
Or was that
Yeah,
like
this is
Mentos and
actually
Diet Coke? I mean, that shoots up in the air.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen this nature cereal? Have you ever seen this, Jack?
It looks like a bowl of fruit.
I know. So actually, I thought this was like very recent, but I guess it was somehow it was 2021. I have no idea. But well, people are saying now, yeah, Lizzo. So it wasn't created by Lizzo, but Lizzo had seen it and then kind of did her own take on it. But it was this Instagrammer or TikToker who put all these fruits into a bowl with coconut water and ate it like cereal and said it was super energizing, super delicious. Lizzo put her spin on it and put ice cubes in there and called it nature cereal. And those actually look really refreshing. I think we were talking about it.
I'm sorry, I don't get it. This is just fruit, isn't
I
it?
know. That's what Jacqueline on our team was saying too. Like, I think if you said, oh, here's your cereal, I think most people would be like,
And we're saying ice cubes are an amazing culinary ingredient. I mean, this is literally eating fruit. What am I
it
missing?
does sound good though, as like kind of an alternative or a spin on.
It sounds
like,
good if you like fruit. I mean, it's like, I mean, most of us probably do. It's just fruit.
This is not approved by Jack.
But I think it
But
goes
like
to
as a
point, right?
spin to
You
like
can frame
sweet
stuff and make it
or-
fun and viral when it's literally just fruit. I mean,
And coconut water. There's also
But
coconut water.
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay,
It sounds
coconut
really
water.
refreshing to me. But I think you absolutely have to like fruit.
we're not that far away from someone picking up just a literal apple and turning it into something and just biting it and say, look at this, and just giving it a funny name and it becomes viral, right? I mean, okay.
And you can put it on the menu at Bros in Italy.
So yeah, maybe you'll have some thoughts on this one too. This is not a great picture, I will say. It kind of does look like something maybe exploded onto it there. It's not a bunch of cheese, it's actually a grated egg avocado toast. And this is the latest thing on TikTok, where you grate the hard-boiled egg on top of the avocado and the toast, because it creates a fluffy texture. Apparently, I have not tried this one yet, although I've tried a lot of the TikTok.
So is
trends
egg
out there.
grating, is that a thing, or did that not really exist prior to this application?
I don't yeah, I mean and the reviewers were saying that it's quite kind of dangerous if you use one of those big box graters and a tiny little egg. So I think you have to be a little careful, but it's supposed to be a very nice little mouthfeel and texture, and tastes very fluffy. I don't know.
It's actually interesting. I'm surprised at how much like the yolk to egg white ratio. I would have thought there'd been more white and less yellow, like just based on what's in an egg, but I guess it comes out that way. I don't have a problem with this.
It is all over TikTok too. And I think, I don't know, maybe like just from my perspective, what happened is you saw people doing the salted egg yolks where they would put the egg yolk in salt and dehydrate it and grating it over. And then this is kind of like a more approachable version for home cooks. So it kind of felt like that was the evolution a little bit.
But you have to be careful with that grater, or it's a grated egg and blood sandwich.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So what is new in food service?
Great question. So this is, there's a few of these around the country, and I know there's one in Japan. So a couple of people listening might have been to one, but one just opened in Chicago, which is one of these 2D restaurants where almost everything in the restaurant looks like a drawing, except obviously the people. And then the food really stands out. The food tends to be really colorful. And the line is out the door for this place in Chicago. People cannot wait to get inside. And I think one, it's really telling that a lot of these type of like Instagrammable or TikTokable places are clearly coming back post-COVID. People can't wait to get into these type of places again. But two, the food here is really well done. I feel like when you looked at some of those like weird food museums, the food was like interesting, but not necessarily delicious. Where this place, they actually take the food really seriously. They have some great Vietnamese coffee. They actually developed a different type of mochi donut that doesn't dissolve in the coffee. So, so they really are focusing on the food. But I think we're about to see a lot more of these kind of, let's get back out there into these like experiential food service experiences again.
Awesome. I mean, we don't have an image of the actual food here because you're right, that would just totally pop against this. I think I remember like probably a few years ago when when I think they redid the stadium where the Brooklyn Nets play. And I remember just like the way they did like the colors of the floor and everything almost had like a monochromatic thing going on. So all the players and their like, bright jerseys like just popped against that background. We should be doing a lot more of that in restaurants too. This is a great idea.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways of doing that. Cool. Do they serve food that's particularly colorful or anything? Or
It's incredibly colorful. The donuts are so colorful. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
And then this one, so Montana State University has been doing this for 34 years now, which is their bug buffet. And I mean, it's what it sounds like. It's a bunch of foods that have bugs, that have cricket powder in it. But I think the thing about it is that they take it really seriously. Yeah, yes, it's interesting. And, students come by and they want to take pictures. But it is kind of part of this whole program where they want to, minimize their carbon footprint. And so they actually do put some of these things on the menu after the fact. Some of the things this year were, there was a pumpkin bread with cricket powder, salsa with scorpions, tamales with black ants. The one that actually sounded really good was wild rice with juniper berry sauce and cedar braised chapulines. And so they actually put some of these things, they have them year round on the catering menu at the university.
Are those grasshoppers?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you can sort of tell from this picture that this girl is going to eat bugs once and one time only. She's doing that for the social cred and for the photo op. Like you can tell she's not going to keep doing this right from this. But it is.
I feel like she's enjoying it.
Seems like hippie.
She's smiling. She seems into it. I don't
know. I mean, there's something going on with her expression where it's not like she's looking at the people. She's not looking at the food longingly, right? She's doing this for someone or something. But it is important that we consider insects as a potential food source, right? Super sustainable, would fix many of the world's problems, but there is that terrible disgust factor that exists. And I think you're right, Mike, that things like cricket flour are probably the bridge that maybe gets us there. I don't know if that's going to happen in our lifetimes, but it seems like it would solve a lot of problems if we could make insects a little more palatable.
When Sean Sherman, the sous chef who was at our Foodscape Congress a few years ago, he did the keynote speech here where he talked about, the long history of eating insects throughout, various cultures. And I don't know, I think, when it's tied to taking it a little bit more seriously, it does open people's minds a little bit.
Yeah. Have you had bugs in a culinary application before?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, multiple times.
Do you like them for anything other than the fact that they're better for the environment? Do you actually like the taste or the texture?
Yeah, a couple of years, actually right before COVID hit, we were at the Fancy Food Show and we had, it was whichever snack brand is at the Seattle Mariners games was taste testing theirs there. It might have been the Don Bugito. And they are like truly, I ate the entire package. They're like truly delicious.
So I probably shouldn't mention, but I feel like I have to. So years ago, and you all can Google this because you're going to think I'm lying, but I promise you I'm not. Scientists were researching if they could harvest cockroach milk as a food source because it's super nutrient dense. You can literally just Google cockroach milk. I promise you, will actually come up. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you milk a cockroach? That seems like it's so much effort to get not much milk out of it. And then you have cockroach cheese and other products as a result. So I don't know. At least we're being inventive about things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this was from an article in the New York Times that I just thought was really interesting. You know, again, looking at how you know, some of our activities are changing post-COVID. And so they were talking about the fact that so many people have moved away from their offices during COVID. And now that things are opening up again, they're going back into the office maybe once a week or maybe once a month. And hotels have kind of realized this, and they're putting together these like weekday packages. You know, come in, go into your office, you have a place to sleep that night, and then you know, can head back to the suburbs or wherever it is the next day. And it's a huge number of hotels are doing this, and the packages are really interesting. This is Citizen M, where for it's about, I think, a little over $100 a month. You get a suite to stay in for one night a month. And then you get like food. I think they give you a cocktail at the end of the night. There are a few of there was one hotel I remember who said that they're going to make sure that their food service locations are open 24/7 throughout the week because they have all of these commuters coming in. So just kind of an interesting look at, you know, how our habits are changing.
So that's actually, so the key part of it is it's a subscription, right?
So for this one, yeah,
every single you don't book nights, you pay every single month. But then the thing you mentioned about the food aspect of it, like, are the people that would be drawn to this concept, which feels like it's probably a little bit of a younger crowd and you know, not, you know, and not the older folks, would they actually want to get food from that hotel, or are they the ones that are more likely to get food from like the cool restaurants nearby anyways?
I mean, I have to say the hotels that are doing this tend to be pretty cool hotels anyway. So they tend to have pretty cool food service locations in them. So
yeah, awesome. Great idea.
Yeah.
What is this?
This is just something very colorful and springy. With new flower power spring cookies from Insomnia Cookies. So that one on the left is a hibiscus berry cookie. So hibiscus, something that's you know, not too often seen in the mainstream, but has and then also has dried cranberries and strawberries, chocolate chips, and then a lemon poppy seed cookie there on the right.
That is awesome.
Some new springy stuff.
Yes, it's actually interesting. Hibiscus is one of those trends that we'll sometimes talk about that was rapidly growing for the years leading up to COVID and took a break during the COVID year or years, and seems like it's poised to continue growing again. So it's nice to see it show up in a cookie.
And then this is, we're going to talk a little bit about more plant-based stuff in a little bit. This is a nice segue into it. This is the Impossible Doghouse, or from Doghouse, it's the Impossible Nug Life Sando. So they've got the plant-based nuggets, smashed avocado, ginger lime slaw, chipotle crema on a, and I like how it also says on a plant-based brioche bun. So lots of plant-based out there, and mostly I was covering in retail, but also in food service as well.
So are the other items on the Doghouse menu, are they called things like Nug Life, or do they, you know, are they more?
I think this was a unique collaboration, chef
That's
collaboration
cool.
that they did.
And
yeah, I thought that was clever.
And I should know this already, and I apologize for not, but is Sando synonymous with sandwich, or does it refer to a specific type of sandwich, or can you just use it totally interchangeably?
No, it's like,
oh, go ahead,
Mike.
Oh, go ahead. I know. I was just gonna say. I mean, at least the way I've seen it, yeah, it just refers to a sandwich. Like
it is, because I
fruit
like
sandos, chicken
like
sandos,
a katsu sando, and I'm like,
exactly.
To me, I'm like, oh, that means it's a very simple type of sandwich. So any sandwich is a sando.
At least the way it's being used on menu. Like, I hate to be like, I'm sure somebody in the comments will be like, actually, but like the way it's being used on menus, we just see sando used for sandwich.
So I think this is one of those things that appeals to like that, more social media, I was going to say savvy, but reliant or addicted young consumers. So if you're making a new sandwich, maybe try calling it a sando if you want to get to that customer in particular. I don't know. It's interesting. What is this? Right? This is not a thing.
No, it's just a cute
newly hatched retail products. Okay, what do we have at retail?
Oh, so these are just some fun. I mean, of course, I had to sneak some bunnies in here. These are from last. I think the one from on the left is a new one for this year. But these solid bunnies that are made with all sorts of different stuff. We've got Apple Jacks, Sour Patch Kids. Just kind of filling them up with, not your average just chocolate bunny. We've got all these collaborations with different cereals and whatnot. So
I feel like there are 10 new collaborations every day. Like every day,
there's so
you just
many.
see- yeah, so many.
It's kind of reminded me of like the hot chocolate bombs that I covered too, that Duncan had. I saw there were tea bombs, all sorts of new stuff.
Well, there's sort of that notion that, food is an experience and food can almost be like a toy. We talked about fake food decor to kick things off today, but it seems like food is invading other aspects of our life, right? So would you buy this because you want to consume it? Do you buy it because it's sort of a fun thing? You sort of hit both emotional states, which is nice.
Absolutely. I think this next one. So I was reminded, I think the last webinar I was on might have been the November one with the Thanksgiving Brock's jelly beans. So this is their new, this is for Easter for some reason. It's their late night taco truck flavored jelly beans. So got churro jelly beans, beef taco, horchata, all in the same bag there. Margarita, churro, those sound good. Not sure about the beef taco.
Did
Guacamole.
anyone else here have the same reaction I did? Like when you first visually saw this, your mind instantly went to Taco Bell. Like I saw the late night thing, sort of that neon sort of thing, the word taco, the purple hues. I wonder if that was an intentional thing, or maybe my mind just drifts toward Taco Bell more than it should. But those are some cool sounding flavors. How about this?
Oh yeah, so these are Perdue's new barbecue seasoned pulled pork bites. So it looks a lot like a nugget. I mean, it essentially is a nugget. So just looking at new ways to innovate on such a quintessential snack item. Is now going the pulled pork route.
So it's crusted in something, or
yeah, it's just essentially like a nugget. So it's got the seasoning breadcrumbs on the outside, and then they come frozen, and you just cook
I
them
feel
right up.
like you may not even need a dipping sauce, right? Because it's sort of saucy already on the inside if it's pulled pork.
Yeah,
that's actually sort of smart.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, and then kind of led me into this, everything coming up plant-based that I talked that I did a creative concepts issue on. So we've got the Impossible Chicken Nuggets now at AMC theaters. We've also got on the bottom there is I think one of the only vegan canned chickens. So we've seen a lot of plant-based items in the actual like meat section and kind of fresh and frozen. But this is one of the first that's actually in the center of the supermarket. So I don't know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of dog food. Hopefully nobody here is from that company, but but it's kind of interesting. Yeah, they've got the barbecue and they've got the buffalo sauce there for the vegan chicken there.
What is it? It's like you use it the same way you'd use canned tuna, basically.
Yeah, or canned chicken. Yeah. So kind of interesting to see it spreading into the canned aisles there.
And the brand is Loma, or the brand is Chicken?
It's from Atlantic Natural Foods.
Oh, okay. It's interesting just that you would call it chicken, and like you're sort of calling out that it's not in a very, very strong way, but we've seen consumers be much, much more receptive to that. Like if you go back a few years and you ask people like, hey, what do you think about something that's sort of like chicken, but not actually chicken? People turn away from it, but as plant-based continue to grow, it's actually become cool to be some sort of an analog in some way. And even if it sounds different or scientific, consumers are much, much more receptive to that these days. And we think that's just going to continue to grow.
Oh yeah, this one's cool. You maybe saw this already, Mike, but would you guys, what do you guess this ice cream bar, this vegan ice cream bar is made out of?
Ooh.
I saw this already.
You saw it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's from Wicked Kitchen. It looks really good. It's made from lupini beans as the base, so very rich in protein.
Wait, it's made from what?
lupini beans. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's we've seen a lot of snacking beans now made of pickled lupini beans. It's a Mediterranean snack and ingredient. So
That's what,
yeah.
and that's what the red stuff is?
No, I think that's just the flavor, but there's
Oh, like
the base of
strawberry or
it.
something, or
Yeah, I
okay.
think that's the kind of a strawberry. I forget what that flavor is.
It's like a bean on a bar, then basically, right? Or beans on a stick.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't taste exactly like that though. I could see it as being a very neutral kind of with that creamy, starchy aspect.
So this is non-dairy. It's really just beans.
I think there's probably some sugar in there, but yeah, it's a vegan, plant-based bar.
Oh, that's actually really interesting, right? And you said it is more high protein.
I believe so. Yeah, they've got the. I think that's one of the big
So
things.
if it's mostly bean, is it like is it low fat or something too? Or is there stuff in there? Is there stuff in there that
Probably.
like, is this supposed to be better for you in some way? I guess the high protein thing, right? If you're going for that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's Wicked Kitchen has a lot of new products that are, the plant-based protein,
I
lower
want
fat.
us all to consider something, which is years ago, if a product like this hit the market, most consumers were like, whoa, that's weird. Now, and walked away from it. Now you have a huge subset of consumers that go like, wow, that's weird and wonderful in some way. And they want to try it because it's odd or unique, right? This notion of food alternatives has been with us for a little while now, which is people want to try different versions of things that have been very, very traditional. You go down the what used to be the potato chip aisle, and most of the chips there don't even come from potatoes anymore. They come from all sorts of other stuff. So yeah, there's a huge market for this, and I'm sure we'll see something even stranger than a bean on a stick one day. But this is pretty cool.
Well, we have 3 minutes left, Jack. So
Okay,
I don't know if
let's
we
go.
want to race through or okay.
Just really quickly, we've got Old Bay vodka. Before we've covered the Arby's fry vodka. Old Bay did an Old Bay hot chocolate. So just lots of Old Bay seasoned vodka. This looks perfect for Bloody Marys.
Very cool.
And this one, it's Joan Soda is actually moving into cannabis, which I think is interesting because it's one of the few brands who are using their existing brand in the cannabis space. So right now, if you walk into a dispensary, most of the brands are brand new to you. But now if you walk in, you might actually know this brand, and they use the same flavors that they use in traditional Joan Sodas.
I didn't know Jones was still around. I remember that from decades ago. That's cool.
I have 2 photos on them when I was in high school. Cheetos at South by Southwest. This was a marketing thing, but it's actually interesting in and of itself too, is they put together this hands-free house. So showcasing all the hands-free technology that you can imagine so that you can run your household even if you have dust on your fingers.
But so there's a physical house you can go to?
At South by Southwest this year.
Oh, South by Southwest. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of space news this week randomly. So this was at the end of last year that Tide had signed an agreement to actually send Tide up to the International Space Station. And they did, but actually in the past few weeks, there's been news about different makeup brands who are testing makeup for space. There was a dental brand that was testing toothpaste for space. And kind of as commercial space technology becomes more of an option, you see a lot of brands kind of trying to get in on it early.
So we think there's a thing for food brands getting into space?
I think it's only a matter of time if food brands aren't already.
Yeah, don't you want to be known as the food that astronauts are eating or something?
Yeah. And that it's good. And also in space, this is Inversion Spacers in the New York Times, but they want to send up small storage capsules into space. And then they would actually send them back down when you wanted the thing from that storage capsule. So they said it could be anything from organs, like if you needed an organ immediately, to they could actually send a pizza from New York to San Francisco in 45 minutes, technically.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Read the article. There's a lot of skepticism about this, but this is the idea that they have.
So it's global food delivery using space as the primary.
That's the end goal.
Right.
I mean, that we could get to that point, but in the near term, it's more just about storing things in space.
That's true. Things do move faster in space. Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, what's new in tech? We're going to go really, really fast.
This is Tortoise. which is a company that makes delivery robots, but they actually found that consumers wanted to open the delivery robots and order things right there. And so they've switched up some of them, and they're kind of now mobile vending robots. And a company can put food in there. You go up, you say, I want 2 cookies or whatever it is. It opens up and you take them out, and they can roam around parks. Right now, they're roaming around some grocery store parking lots when the grocery stores are closed. This has got to have some metaverse news. So Meta, or previously known as Facebook, developed this technology that allows you to describe a digital environment, and it comes to life through AI. So you don't need programmers. You just say, I want to build a virtual restaurant, and it comes to life. You say, I want the walls to be green, and all of a sudden the walls are green. So just kind of interesting use of technology that makes it more available to the everyday consumer.
We'll see a lot of virtual restaurants for sure.
And then the very last one, I always just think it's interesting to see robots in people's houses and how they interact with them. This is LEQ, which is specifically targeted towards the senior community. They've been testing it for 5 years, but it's finally available. And if you read the articles, it's just really interesting to see how over the past 3 years of seniors having these robots in their houses, how they interact with them, how they do kind of start to think that it's a real person in their house, but also the technology. They're going to have grocery delivery, food delivery, where you just talk to this LEQ robot. So there's a great article in The Guardian about all of the things that they learned from it that I would.
So if any of you are wondering if consumers will rebel against robots in places like restaurants, the answer is no. We see it in our data very, very clearly. Consumers are super open to automation and robots in food and in restaurants. The numbers keep going up every single year. And once you have it in your personal life, it's going to become sort of expected everywhere else. So with that, sorry we had to speed through the end there. Mike, Renee, thank you, and thank you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We're going to go a little bit deeper on some very important topics. So keep an eye out and join us 2 weeks, same time, same place, Thursday, noon Central, March 31st.